ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. Good evening, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's time. 162 games behind us. Who's in, who's out? Well, me and Scottie are here to break down the final weekend, talk a couple quick seconds about what happened and what is about to happen, hopefully for the next 3 days, where we could have 4 games, if they all go 3. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. We're going to at least get Tuesday and Wednesday with that. The playoffs are here. And I'm kind of glad baseball got rid of the one and dones. And the people bitching and complaining, of course, my team's always at 1, my team's at 3, blah, 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 blah. But they're also complaining is, why is the home team hosting all 3 games? Well, they had a better record. They had a better record. That's it. And they're not going to have the traveling back and forth. Get in there, win 2, and get out and move on. So the winner of New York and the Red Sox, whoever wins the series, heads up to Toronto. And yada, yada, yada. So first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download that app. It is free. And, of course, AtlantaSteaksandSeafood.com. Terry Smith has it all. Steaks, chops, seafood, appetizers, wines. You name it, he's got it. The only thing you'll need is a spare propane tank. So without further ado, my Sox are in. His Rays are out. Scottie Webb. What's up, champ?
Baseball tomorrow. And it'll be interesting. I'm excited. I'm happy about the teams that got in, teams that didn't make it. They didn't make it. Mets, Rangers, teams like that, Astros. They were all good teams. They just didn't make it. So you got to finish in baseball, and there's 162 games, and because there's 162 games, if you make it in, you deserve to be there. So whether there's a tweet out there, and let me pull this up for a second, that I can share with you for just 1 minute. And it was talking about. I'm gonna go to my doodads and see my likes. There we go. So it says, where is it? It is somewhere in here. Maybe not. Who knows? So there it is. So the Reds, the Cincinnati Reds, are the only Major League Baseball team ever to have no qualifying batter hit 270, to have no batter hit 25 home runs, to have no pitcher win 15 games, no pitcher to notch 200 strikeouts, and still make the playoffs in a non-strike year. So in a lot of ways, they're one of the worst teams then to ever make the playoffs. Is basically what they're trying to tell you. And that's not necessarily a credit to the Cincinnati Reds as much as it's probably a discredit to what happened to the Mets. So you got to start thinking about how all this plays out and what happens. But you still got to win to get there. So they're there. It's too bad that they got to go play the Dodgers, but they're there, and it is what it is for them. So So, I just did, a ton of work on these four series. Now, I didn't do a lot of work beyond that, meaning that, you got Toronto and you got some, they got the Brewers and the Phillies and these guys sitting out there waiting on these teams. I didn't do a lot of work there yet just because matchup wise and pitching wise, kind of hard to figure out who's going to do what and what those items are going to look like. It was hard enough to try to get the Cubs to figure out what they were going to do pitching wise. And then, I saw some stuff that said the Padres were going to throw Michael King. And I'm like, if they throw Michael King, they're just throwing in, they're just in trouble because, holy shit. Not that he's a bad pitcher. He's just not ready to go back from his injury and stuff. So I've handicapped out, obviously the games that play tomorrow, but I've also handicapped the games that play out after that, the next set. I didn't do the third games because I'm not 100% sure, A, that they're necessary, and B, I don't know who's pitching for some of those games. Just to find out, Giolito's not going to pitch for the Red Sox, so they're talking about Harrison and what's the guy's name, Early or something.
Just he won't. Don't come late. He'll be early.
So you're talking about, something like that. So you got to figure out kind of what's going to happen. Where the Padres, if they make it 3 games, they're going to have to throw Darvish or they're going to have to throw Michael King or somebody. Then, data wise, I can tell you who the best pitcher is to pitch in those spots. But maybe they got a different feeling for those things. So anyway, I didn't do those. So that allows me to have lines made for these games today or tomorrow and for the Wednesday games. And because I have lines for Tuesday and Wednesday, I also have series prices that are my own. So I can shop series prices against what the series prices are. We can talk whatever you want to talk. I also put a little spreadsheet together. I sent you a little clip of it in email. It's not going to be a lot there, but basically all it's saying is that these are my power ratings for the teams, and then I listed the pitchers, the starting pitchers by WAR. How they graded out that are in the playoffs. Not all of them, it's just the playoff pitchers. But then I went and kind of matched that out further who the pitching. I don't know if that's on your sheet, but I've got the pitching setups for like Scooble and Mize and what their WAR numbers are and different other things. But then I even took that out farther and go, well, how do these guys do against the teams they're facing? What's the batting averages against them? The OPS and that kind of thing. And then how are these guys in postseason play? And so anyway, data wise, I've got a lot of it here. I did my normal worksheet. So I've got, you can sort of see, there it is. You can see it on the screen over here. There's 8 pitchers there. The matchups, I've got all the data for them, and then all the situational numbers are in, all the bullpen numbers are there, the offense is there, the bet scores are there, all the stuff. So I can go whatever you want, brother.
Well, what I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to give an overview of what the numbers are saying. And then I'm going to give my 2 cents. And then what I would like to do, honestly, Scottie, since you got so much data back there, is I want to bring it to the forefront, do what you used to do, and just start picking and choosing and going through. Because you got something that 99.9% of the others don't have. And you got it all right at the palm of your hand. So I want you to break down the games. I want you to be able to talk the way you want to talk, what you see, what your numbers say versus the market. However you want to do it, take 15 minutes, take 40 minutes. I don't care. But, we got almost 50 people right now live just on Twitter. So we're starting to, the room's starting to fill up. So I'm going to just do a quick overview here. Listen, guys, what you did versus this team in the regular season, once in a while does carry over. I'll admit it. But most of the time it doesn't. So people are going to look, and again, I hate when they lie on the opening line, okay? Because the opening line on the Yankees-Red Sox was Yankees minus 190. Well, it's down to 185. It wasn't 173, guys. Now, as a Red Sox fan, you're sitting there like, wow, we did well against the regular season. And we got Crochet starting game 1 in New York. Well, if I told you that Fried is minus 136 against Crochet, So if you like the Red Sox in the series and you want to go and grab the plus 165, I will just tell you this. As Scotty said, and I said, Giolito's out. It's Harrison or it's early. I'd start early, but it's Harrison early and whoever can get if they get to a game 3. So if you're betting the Red Sox in the series, you better have them in game 1. Because I will tell you right now, if Crochet loses game 1, which he's an underdog against Max Fried, there's a good possibility. Bello's been leaking oil. Bello's been leaking oil, guys. So, and if he can't get out of the first or second inning without, he's going to give up a crooked number. Walk, base hit, 3-run homer by Judge. If he can get out of the first 2 innings, you can breathe, okay? So the Yankees are minus 190. Now, we just saw what the epic run the Guardians made on the Tigers. Epic. 15 and a half games. They win the division. They're playing it back. Guardians get the home field advantage. It's a pick'em. Vegas is telling me it's the Tigers. So if you take the Tigers in the series, you better take them game 1 with Tyreek Skubal. That's number 2. National League, Dodgers are minus 300. You're better off just grabbing them to win the NL pennant. I don't want to see you lay 300. They're going to win the series. They should win it in 2. Hats off Tito Francona. God bless you, kid. Way to get the kids in. Next year, you're going to do even better. Okay, now, Cubs, Padres. Everyone's got tickets on the Padres, and they're plus 105. Everyone's going to have the Padres, and it's a bad matchup for the Padres, even though Cade Horton's also out for the Cubs. I don't know if Sutcliffe is coming back, Kerry Wood, Mark Pryor. I don't know how they're going to put it together. Okay, so I'm going to, what's that?
Tyon.
Okay. So just my head has a Seattle Yankees. Yankees go up to Toronto. Yankees beat Toronto. Seattle is going to do their bit damage. It's going to be Seattle and the Yankees. And then the winner of the Phillies Dodgers is going to go on and beat the Brewers. And so you're either going to have the Phillies or the Dodgers coming out of the National League, and you're either going to have Seattle and the Yankees. And if you want the further write-up from me, go to eastcoastsportsinvestors.com, plans and pricing, and you can get all that good stuff. Or just send me a DM at EC Sports Invest. That's my breakdown. That's my initial thoughts. I can't wait. And I will tell you this, numbers, just reading the numbers, it tells me Seattle's going to the World Series. And I've been saying in June, July, August, and September 1st, the light bulb was going to come on for the Dodgers. It hasn't yet. Their back end's been atrocious. But you look at who they could sweep the Reds and then have Ohtani starting game 1 against the Phillies. So it's going to be amazing, Scotty. I can't wait. I'm going to pull you up to the front. I'm going to be locked and loaded and listen. Okay, brother?
Yeah, no worries. So when you're talking about these teams and kind of what they do and where they've been, like the Yankees, for example, the Yankees in the last 20 games, I don't know how many people really realize kind of what they've done, but the Yankees are 15-5 in the last 20. You hear about what the Guardians are. Well, they were 16-4, so they were one spot better than what the Yankees were, and the Dodgers. Their back end's not been so good, but their starting pitchers are unhittable. They went 15-5 in the last 20 games. So when you start to look at these teams and kind of how they do, it's good to know who's hot coming in and who's not. There's this Cleveland Detroit series is interesting to me because one of the things that stands out, Tyreek Skubal, in his last 2 starts, they were both against Cleveland, and now he's going to pitch again. This will be the 3rd straight time and taking the mound against the same opponent. When you do that, that's advantage batters. That's not advantage pitchers. But you have the same issue with Williams on the other side. So then you got to sit there and go, well, who's the better pitcher? Well, it's obviously Skubal's the better pitcher, even though he tweaked himself, got a little bit hurt. He's got a little bit more rest this time. I think he'll be fine. So the way I kind of look at these series is this way. You can either bet the series, obviously, or you can bet the games day by day by day. I think the way I would look at this is, and let me go to where my numbers are in my lines, and we'll get into some of this a little bit. So we'll just specifically look at the Detroit and Cleveland series for right this minute. Offensively, you're looking at two teams that are struggling. Offensively, the Detroit ranks 25th out of 30 teams in the last couple weeks, and Cleveland ranks 18th. Right, so both of them in the bottom. Detroit much further though. They're not scoring a lot of runs. 15 runs over 6 games for Detroit, 27 for Cleveland. And you think that's kind of good. Well, that's 4.5 runs is about what the average in Major League Baseball teams do. So it's not great. And then they're going to face Scooble. So theoretically, he's not going to give up 4.5 runs. So when you start to break it down, you start thinking about, okay, well, situationally, how do these guys do? Well, Scooble's made 31 starts. In those 31 starts, the Tigers are 21-10. Okay, he doesn't lose, is basically what that means. In the 31 starts that Williams made, he's 17-14, so he's a 500 pitcher. So big edge in that retrospect goes to Detroit. And when you start to think about it, I get it. Detroit was 2-8 in the last 10 games. They were 6-14 in their last 20. But Detroit's one of these teams that does have a winning away record. They're 41-40. And of all the teams that are playing, the Cleveland Guardians are the worst home team of all the teams playing this weekend. They're 45-36, only 9 games over. So, for example, the Cubs are 50-31. So that's 19 games over. The Yankees are 50-31, and the Dodgers are 52-29. Home field means something, and it doesn't for Cleveland. And they're playing a team that can win on the road. So that offsets a lot of that just in those aspects already. So then when you start looking at pitchers, I'm sorry, you got to look at one other thing. So you got to look at left-handers, right? Because we got a lot of lefties going today, and lefties for Cleveland. Cleveland is the only team that is facing a left-handed pitcher with a losing record. They're 22-24 against left-handed pitching. Other teams that are going to face left-handed pitchers that made the playoffs, they're not going to be in those spots. They're going to have won more games against left-handed pitchers. Like the Crochet's 24. The Yankees are 19-17, and the Red Sox are 24-21, for example, against lefties. Those are teams both facing lefties together. So then you start breaking down the pitchers, and you go, "Holy cow, what's going on with these pitchers?" Well, for the season, Tariq Skubal has a game score 65. Now, listen, 60 is what aces do. Well, he's 65, so obviously he's an ace. He's Cy Young. He's the highest WAR pitcher earned WAR of all of them. He's 6.6 WAR, 6.5 WAR, whatever you want to call it. He's the best. Now you have Williams. His game score for the season's a 53, okay? I don't always go by what they do for the season because I don't care what they did in April. I want to know what they did in the last month. So for the last month, game scores for the last 7 starts for Scooble's a 61.1, and for Williams is a 58.6. Both pretty good numbers. Obviously, if you hit the 60 mark, you're doing great. And again, that's where Scooble's at. So both of them are good strikeout pitchers. It's interesting that Williams is probably actually outpitched Skubal just a tick, but just on little ancillary things. So it's interesting when you kind of look at that from that perspective. And then you kind of say, well, Cleveland's offense has been slightly better, so why don't you like Cleveland? Well, because a couple things. So Skubal, he's pitched in the postseason. He's 2-1 in the postseason. He's got a 2.37 earned run average in the postseason. And he's going to face Williams. Williams only pitched once in the postseason. Of course, when they played it, it was against the Yankees. He lost. He's 0-1 as a starter, and he is at 11.57 earned run average. So he's going to have to do a lot more to try to get healthy in the postseason. Skubal doesn't have that problem. He's a seasoned kind of guy. He's made 3 starts, and to be honest with you, only Fried really has a lot of starts as a starting pitcher in this group of pitchers that are going to be pitching today and tomorrow. So as you're kind of looking through it and kind of working our way around some of this stuff, I think there's a definite advantage. Now, when I make my lines and my numbers, there's a couple of things I want to make sure everybody understands, okay? So in the American League, my power ranks look like this. Yankees, Red Sox, Seattle, Detroit, Toronto, Cleveland. That's my power ranks. And why did I get there? Because it's kind of weird, right? So those are my power ranks. Now, if you look at run differential as another way to look at it, well, run differential has the Yankees, the Red Sox, and then Toronto, Seattle, Detroit, and Cleveland. And by the way, Cleveland is the only team that's negative in the playoffs. They're the only ones that got outscored and still made the playoffs. Pythagorean theory has the Yankees and Toronto tied, and then Seattle at 4 games behind, and then Boston, and then Cleveland, and then Detroit being the worst team. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but I use base runs a lot, and that's kind of how you get there for me. The Cleveland Guardians have won 11 games that they should not have won, is what base runs tells you. 11. So if you take 11 wins away from them, they're a sub 500 team, and their data shows they're a sub 500 team. Detroit is exactly where they're supposed to be. So that tells me that Detroit is a much better man-for-man, player-for-player team than what Cleveland is. Now, momentum and streaks and all that stuff, that all adds up, and it does kind of carry over. But look, we're in playoff time, and playoff time is a different season, different management, different things going on, and AJ Hinch knows what he's doing. So I like that. I don't like, I like Cleveland's bullpen maybe a little better, but not a dramatic amount. So when you start to think about how that kind of works out, I think Detroit's the better team over Cleveland. I think Cleveland's the worst team in the American League when it comes to who's in the playoffs. And then Toronto has 7 wins more than what they should have. So that means that I think they are not as good as the Yankees. I don't think they're as good as the Red Sox, to be honest with you. The Red Sox are 4 games short. They should have 4 more wins than what they do, and the Yankees should have 6 more wins than what they do. So think about that. That puts the Yankees at right about 100 wins. So that puts them as good as anybody. Kind of like what the Yankees, or kind of like where you might find like the Dodgers. So I think that in the American League, you got to kind of shuffle things through. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the Blue Jays, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Seattle because, I didn't handicap them yet. So I think Skubal, Williams, you have my line's a big line. Skubal is way up there. He's a 6.6 WAR guy. Williams is a 1.4 WAR guy. So Skubal is 4 times the pitcher. 4 times the pitcher Williams is in terms of data. And then when you start to think about, okay, well, what does that look like on a number? Well, I think the number that's out there that where's my book? There it is. So the number that I get from ProfitX is like minus 150, minus 148. For Detroit, I think it should be minus 200. So I make a number that's minus 200. Okay, great. So that got a minus 200. There's value there. I want to bet them, right? Well, what's going on the next game? Because if they win game 1, then they only have to win 1 more. And who's the matchup for that one? Well, that matchup is going to be, there we go. That's going to be Mize against Bybee. And when you start to think about that one, Mize has a 2.4 WAR and Bybee's a 1.9. Okay, well, Mize has been the better pitcher. Now, when you look at the data on the two, over the last 7, you've got a game score of 50 for Mize. So that's an average number, maybe even a little bit. Well, 50 is kind of average. But Bybee, over his last, he's a game score of 58. That's almost ace-like. He's been great. But here's one of the drawbacks that I have with certain things. So if I go look at Bybee's here's his last 4 starts, okay? Remember, he's a game score of 51 on the season. So he's an average pitcher, just barely over, but a 51. So here's his last 4. 63, 68, 99, 58. Oh boy. So he's way over his skis in performance. So people are human, right? So they don't go out there and go up, down, up, down, up, down. They go on streaks and they fall back. He's very ripe for a fallback. And when you start to look at Casey Mize, he's a 67, 47, 48, 57, 59, right? So he's got a little bit in there that were bad, a little bit that's good. I like the spot where I think, okay, Casey Mize has been around the block a little bit. Casey Mize, he has a 2.6. Where is it? There it is. That's right. He has pitched in the playoffs, not very well. He was a 1-2, and Bybee's never made it and pitched in the playoffs. Bybee is a 0 postseason guy. So I don't remember if you remember Shane Bieber when he first made his first starts. They're terrible. A lot of players, when they make their first start in the playoffs, they don't go well, especially if they're a good pitcher and they're expected to do well. So anyway, point being is, starting to look at this and I'm like, well, what's that line kind of look like? Well, when I made the number for that game, where is it? There it is. I have Detroit minus 110. So Detroit minus 110, and I got Detroit minus like 209, 200 for Scooble. So I'm sitting here going, I don't want to pay that price for Scooble. I think they're going to win. And in worst case scenario, they're going to have Flaherty pitch. Now I get it. Flaherty's been up and down and crazy and terrible. But what I don't think people really realize is if you pull up his data, and I'll pull it up real quick just because I did this a second ago, well, more than a second ago. But if I pull this up, Flaherty has a xFIP 3.68. His Sierra is 4.09. His FIP number is 355. That's all very respectable, very good numbers. And like Scooble is a 3.71 xFIP, 3.72, and Casey Mize is a 3.26, 3.19. They're all really good numbers. There's not much discernment or differential there. And if you then go to who's the Guardians going to pitch in game 3, well, I can't tell you exactly who they're going to pitch, but what I can tell you, it's going to be either Slade Ciccone, or it's going to be Joey Cantillo, whoever. Those 2 guys have been pretty decent for them down the stretch. It's going to be one of them, and they're not any better than that. So the way then you got to go and say, well, how many times have Flaherty pitched in the playoffs? A lot. You got to remember he was a good pitcher for the Cardinals, and he pitched for the Tigers, and he was with the Dodgers. I mean, he's been in the playoffs a lot. So I'm going to take the bet angle is this. I don't want to play this every single day and figure out who's going to do what and what the numbers are going to be. I already think that I'm going to have 2 spots where the away team's should be the favorite. I'm going to take Detroit in the series. The Detroit series price that I had at ProfitX is minus 120. I think that's the way to handle this game, and I think that series, that's the way I'm going to go. Jeff, do you want to jump in and add to that, or do you want me to just go on to the next series? I'm not sure how you want me to do it. So just curiosity, I guess, on that, because the next one's going to be a little harder. You're on mute.
I'm listening, taking notes. You can do exactly what you want to do throughout, and then I'll come back in again. Our goal here, guys, simply is life gets busy, and I was on the road. We rescued a puppy from Texas, a pug, and I had to go up to Connecticut and back, so we didn't get our football show in. We're here with the baseball show today, and then tomorrow morning, myself and Scott will be back around 9-ish, 9:15. to get you back in the football swing. But throughout the week, if we get time, 15, 20 minutes, half hour, whatever, we might pop back in and break down what's going on in baseball. So, Scotty, again, I'm the market guy. I'm just reading with the eyes, the eye test and all that stuff, but reading the market. So I love this. I'm just eating it up. So you can go on.
All right, I just didn't know if you had. Let's see. Okay, well that series is kind of done on my side. If you wanted to add something, or if you want to wait and I just do the next one, because the next one's what, the Padres, right? So this one was the hardest one for me to get a hold of because I'm doing this work and they didn't announce the pitchers yet. So I'm trying to figure out who's going to pitch and do all this stuff. And I saw that Monica was going to be like their number one guy, and then they were going to throw Boyd. So I'm kind of used to it, but it's not going to be that way. Boyd's going to pitch, and then Monica's going to pitch, and then they're going to throw Ty on. So it's so the Cubs are a team that they don't have a dominant starting pitcher. They just don't. And sometimes when that matches up, it's a bad matchup. So I'm trying to go to my other list that I have over here. The Chicago Cubs, the best pitcher is Boyd. He ranks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He's 13th on the list of these pitchers. He's the only Chicago Cub on the list. So there's only one guy that's going to be above a 1.3 WAR starting pitcher for them. That's not good for a playoff team. But the other thing that is good for Chicago, and this is the counterbalance. Counterbalance is that their offense currently, the Chicago Cubs, over the last week or so, they've scored 43 runs in the last 6 games, hit 14 home runs. They're the number one offense in baseball. So maybe they're going to try to win these games via, softball style. But that means, the Padres are going to have to give up the runs. So their pitchers are going to have to pitch poorly. Well, what's interesting on that side is the Padres, they have scored 37 runs and hit 10 home runs in the last 6 games. They're the 6th best offense. So you got the 1st best offense against the 6th best offense, and certainly not as good starting pitching for Chicago against better starting pitching for the Padres. And the bullpens, you're going to have an edge with San Diego. So it's interesting kind of how that matchup kind of materializes. The one thing that I would caution everybody on before they go running out there and telling me how great San Diego is, San Diego, they are 38 wins on the road. 38 means they've lost 43. That's not very good. That's the Cincinnati Reds. They've done the same thing, 38 and 43. And the Cubs, they don't lose at home. They're like the Yankees. They're like the Dodgers. They don't lose at home. They're 50 and 31. So that is a significant flaw for San Diego. So everybody gets all worked up about that offense and looking at them and, oh my God, what a lineup they have and all these guys that are going to score all these runs. They don't do it on the road nearly like they do at home. So then you got to kind of look at pitching matchups and see kind of where things go a little deeper. And what I was looking at in that particular game is I think sometimes home field and daytime matters, and it does for Boyd. Boyd, he's an SOPS plus of 66. So that means he's 34% better pitcher at home at limiting the opponent's offense. He's also a 76, so he's 24% better during the day. So he's good at home during the day. That's not a bad thing. But he's still a 500 pitcher. He's 16 and 15. He's that's what he is. That's the Cubs don't have these dynamic guys. Pivetta is different. Pivetta can be an ace kind of guy. Pivetta is 19 and 12 in the starts for them, almost 20 wins. That's really good. He's only 2 wins away from what Skubal did. So that's really good. Now, on the road, I started looking at it and going, well, how's he going? He's 86. So what that means is he's 14% better than an average pitcher on the road, holding the opponent's offense down. But they can't hit him during the day. He's a 44. So that means he's 56% better than an average pitcher during the daytime. I think that levels that and evens that out. I think that San Diego pitcher can offset some of that offense that they're going to throw out there. And Boyd's going to be good at home too. I think this is going to become hence. I think this is going to come down to a bullpen game between these two guys. I think both pitchers are going to pitch halfway decent. Boyd's been around the block now. He's pitched playoff games. Boyd is actually 2-1 in the playoffs with a 2.83 earned run average. And Pavetta's pitched a little bit, 2.63 in the postseason. So not crazy. So when I made the number for this game, the number that I had, where is my numbers? I have windows opened and changing things around. There we go. Numbers. There we go. Pow. So my number in this game is Chicago minus 118, and you can get it at 109. So I actually think they should be favored by a little bit more than what they are. Now the next game is where you start running into problems because, it's interesting because the next game comes out and it's Cease against Imaniga. Now Imaniga is kind of a bulldogish kind of guy. He's got no stuff. His performance is terrible. Cease has great stuff, but can only go five innings. He can't go very deep in a game. And he's been a terrible postseason pitcher, Cease. He's 1-2 with a 12.91 earned run average. Now, granted, that was probably with the White Sox at some point. So we'll give him a little bit of a slide to kind of get through this a little bit. So I think you got a dominant pitching edge. I think you're going to have San Diego be the favorite over Imaniga the next day. What was my number in that game? Nope, I got Imaniga's probably going to. Well, maybe that's wrong. I have to double check it. But I think you're going to run into Cease as being a bigger WAR number. It's 3 point something against Imaniga's got a bad number. So Cease is 3.4, Imaniga is 0.9. So that means Cease is a 3 times the better pitcher. When it comes to his data and his numbers, Cease is, and this will tell you a lot. Cease's SIERA number is 3.53, Imaniga 4.25. Okay, so that means he's almost a run better there. And then the big one is going to be FIP, right? Fielding independent pitching. So how does the pitcher do without defense? So strikeouts, walks, home runs. And if you look at what Cease is, 2.56, great numbers. That's perfect. And Imaniga 6.6. Well, where's the problem? It's home runs. He gives up more than 3 home runs per 9 innings. And we just said that San Diego just hit 10 home runs the last 6 games. So they can hit home runs. I think that's a major problem for him. He's the only pitcher on my chart that shows up in yellow. Yellow is being in the worst 25% of these pitchers is Imaniga. So I really like the idea that I think San Diego is going to win that game. So then I don't know who's going to pitch in the third games. I think it's going to be Tyon, but maybe they come out and they throw somebody else in there for the Cubs. And I don't know who the Padres are going to pitch. My thought would be is they're going to throw Darvish. Now, Darvish has been around the block. He's an old school veteran kind of guy. But maybe they decide they want to throw Michael King. If they throw Michael King would be the worst pitcher pitching in the playoffs. And it's not because he's a bad pitcher. It's just because he's coming back from injury and he's not fully healthy. Darvish is just as good as Cease and some of these other guys for the Padres, or he has been. He had his time when he wasn't any good there for a while, but he's been pitching a lot better. So if it comes to that, the way I'm looking at this is I can't trust the idea of betting this as a series price. I just can't do it. So I'm going to bet the Padres games day by day. If I like the side, I'm going to bet the side. Like the first game, my numbers show that might be a little bit of an advantage, even though you got a good pitcher in Pivetta. There might be a little bit of an advantage to the Padres or to the Cubs. The next one might be certainly a big advantage to Cease. So So I might do it that way because I don't know who's going to pitch in game 3, and it's too much uncertainty for me when the offenses are kind of in alignment. And when you look at what I do is I have the critical components of what I think are to make a bet. And in weighting of the bullpen, I use the Sierra number has to be under 3.8. Well, guess what? Every single bullpen in it got all points. Every single one, all 8 of them. Then what I look at is WPA, winning percent added, and I look at clutch. So that's what bullpens do. They come through when the game's on the line, and they come through in clutch moments, or they don't. And in this case, Padres hit both, Cubs miss both. So the Padres are a better spot there. And then I look at, do they come in and can they get strikeouts? Because you don't want them to hit the ball, and both of them have 11 strikeouts per 90, so they're striking guys out. So there's a slight edge to the Padres in terms of the bullpen. So I like the idea that that's more of a, quote, clutch team, more of a, when the game's on the line, the Padres are kind of answering that bell a little bit right now, maybe not so much Cubs. So I think it's a better way to go is to go game by game by game. I'm not sure I'm going to play the first game yet. I might. We'll see. And certainly I think the second game is Padres. But you got to keep in mind, too, with these series prices are going to change when somebody wins the first one. Because all I got to do is win one out of the next 2, and then the other team's got to win 2 in a row. So it makes it harder. Anyway, so I think that's a tougher handicap, this one. And that's really more tough because I don't know who's going to pitch in the third game. I can't get a true good series price. I know what the series price is. The series price, by the way, is over here. Series price at DraftKings is Chicago minus 125, FanDuel Chicago minus 124, ProfitX, where I bet it's minus 111. So I guess you can kind of take it how you want, but I think you can probably end up, if you like the Padres, you're going to end up getting a couple of dog spots and maybe small favorite spots and be good. If you like the Cubs, you're going to have small favorites on all these spots. So kind of however you want to do it. But that's kind of how I want to do that. Is that series is day by day. So the next one is the Red Sox and the Yankees. And I was kind of surprised at looking at this. I thought there would be a bigger advantage for Crochet over Fried. So Crochet's going into this is, according to WAR, okay, he's the 3rd best pitcher. And you got to remember, Skeens isn't on here anymore, and he's still the 3rd best pitcher because Skeens is 6.5, I think, and Skubal 6.6 WAR. Well, Christopher Sanchez for the Phillies is 6.4, and I didn't realize he was up there that high, but he is. And then you have Crochet 5.8. That's where Crochet falls. Well, Fried is 4.8. So that's better. Obviously 5.8 is better than 4.8. But how much better? Well, it's significant. But at the same time that it's significant, it's not to the degree in which you have Skubal over anybody else, right? I mean, Skubal with a big disparity where he was 6 times better than his other pitcher. You don't have that in this matchup. So I was a little bit intrigued by that. And then the other thing that really intrigued me was Yankees are 15-5 in the last 20 games, and they are the number 2 offense in baseball. They scored 33 runs, hit 11 home runs. Isolated power is 4th. Weighted runs created plus. They are 43% better than an average pitcher. They're the only team of these 8 teams that has a walk rate in double digits. And a lot of that's probably because they're walking Judge a lot. But it's one of these spots where they're 13%. They're getting on base 13% of the time via the walk. So I found it a little bit interesting that this offense was doing as much as it is, because when you watch it, it just looks like, they either hit a home run or they don't score. And then for Boston, they ranked 17th, kind of middle of the pack. 15 would be the middle. So they're kind of right in the middle of the pack right now. But they're 13% worse than an average offense. They walk the fewest amount of any of these teams. So getting on base requires them to get a base hit. And that's not necessarily kind of what you want in the playoffs because these pitchers are going to be a little different. So I started thinking about it. I'm like, okay, well, there is a little bit of a pitching advantage for Crochet over Fried. But it's kind of made up a little bit with the Red Sox or the offense for the Yankees currently. And it's not always that way. I mean, sometimes the Red Sox are going crazy and the Yankees aren't hitting. So let's look at the pitchers for a second. Situationally, Garrett Crochet's made 32 starts. He doesn't lose. They're 23-9 when he starts, right? Scuba was 21-10, so that's way better. 23-9, that's better. However, I didn't believe this until I saw it. Fried's made 32 starts. Yankees are 22-10 when he pitches, so they don't lose when he pitches. So you got two really, really good pitchers that are going to pitch in this game. I mean, they're like there is that where you thought there was dominance, there isn't. So, for example, over the last 28 days, SOPS plus, how they handle the opponent's offense. For Crochet, it's an 80, so he's 20% better than an average pitcher. Well, Fried's 57, 43% better than an average pitcher. On the road, Crochet's 60, 40% better than an average pitcher. At home, Fried, he's a 62, 38% better than an average pitcher. Like, that's what they do. They're matching up like that, like head to head. It's crazy. The one thing I will tell you is Yankees are 50-31 at home. The Red Sox are 41-40 on the road, so kind of 500-ish. So it's got to be another edge to the Yankees when it comes to that part of it. And there's no real edge to facing left-handed pitchers. They're both barely above 500, both teams. And then when I looked at the data, so Sierra 2.46 for Crochet, and Fried is a 3. So yeah, a little bit better. But if you stretch it out to the FIP number, Crochet's 4.17 and Fried's 2.33. Well, why is the difference? It's because Crochet's giving up homers. Crochet 2.18 home runs per 9 innings. He is the second worst, compared to what we just talked about with Monica. So that's not a good thing when you got Yankees hitting home runs right now. So that's that. So and when I pulled the data on him, well, here's an interesting number. Crochet batting average against the Yankees is 222. The Yankees bat 222, so they don't get on base much against him. League average is 240, 245 maybe, so a little bit below. But OPS, on base plus slug, 667. They've hit like 7 home runs against him. Bellinger has a couple. Judge has a couple. I forget who else has them. But that's how they're scoring against Crochet. They just hit home runs. Walk, home run. Then the Yankees get 2-3 runs. So it's a different dynamic there. Now, I will say that Fried has allowed a little bit more hits to the Red Sox, 256 batting average against, which is a little bit above average. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. Having said that, that gives, the Yankees a little bit of an edge here. My number is not nearly as big as the number of the day. So my number is Yankees minus 113. I saw it at minus 120 or 125, whatever it is, 130 something. I don't think it should be that high for tomorrow's game, just the one game. I'm okay with the Yankees being favored, but more like 113, 115, something like that. So that puts value then on the Red Sox side, to be honest. But that's where it ends, because Bello and Rodon go next. Bello's a 1.9 WAR, not terrible, but Rodon's 3.2. Rodon has numbers like Fried. They're phenomenal numbers. Where is it? Rodon 3.78, 3.49, Sierra number, FIP number. And Bello, Sierra number wise, is 5.18. It's the worst one of all 8 pitchers. Slightly worse than Boyd for the Cubs. So when you start to think about it, Rodon should have a dominant edge starting pitching wise. We already talked about the offense. We didn't really talk about the bullpens much, but to be honest, the bullpen data wise doesn't give you the willies like when you watch the Yankees throw their guys out there, because the Yankees have great bullpen numbers over the last 14 days or so, but so does the Red Sox. So this kind of comes down to then saying, all right, so Rodon, he's pitched, I shouldn't say it this way. So Fried's pitched 12 times in the playoffs, and Crochet, he's pitched 3 times, believe it or not, all in relief. So he's only pitched 1 inning, all in relief, back several years ago when he was, relief pitcher for the White Sox. Rodon's pitched 5 times in the playoffs, all starts. Bello has never pitched in the postseason as a starter. So again, then you start to run into the next step of this is going to be that line that I made for this game, Yankees, I made this game 156, Rodon 156. And then they're going to have Schlittler go against whoever's going to pitch for the Red Sox. So, again, I think you're going to go, okay, well, Schiller's not the greatest guy in the world. Well, he's probably going to be better than Harrison. He's probably going to be better at home and all that. So, they're going to be favored. So, you're going to have the Yankees favored all 3 times. Because you run into the Yankees being all favored all 3 times, the series price is what you really need to look at. I don't think you want to bet them all 3 times. That doesn't make any sense. You bet them once if you like that side. So my number in this game, that's the wrong doodad. There it is. So my series price was Yankees minus 172, and then DraftKings was 163, FanDuel was 184, and ProfitX was 158. So I can bet it at minus 158, and there's value there because I think it should be 172. I like the Yankees in the series price, not a day-to-day type deal. And then the last series is, I'm not going to waste a lot of time with this. I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to give you a couple of notes here. Let's pull it up by the pitchers just because it's just unbelievable. So Green, the pitcher for Cincinnati, he's been great, Hunter Green. He has a 3.10 Sierra number and a 2.91 FIP number. Okay, real good numbers. Plus, he strikes out a lot of guys. So he's striking out 11.15 guys per 9 innings. Like that, it's hard to get on base against this guy, which is obviously why his FIP number's low. It still doesn't match what Blake Snell's doing, even those numbers. Blake Snell, 2.64 Sierra, 1.3 FIP number. All right, well, wait a minute. So then you got to go down and go, well, who's pitching next? It's Yamamoto, and he's going to face Abbott. Well, Abbott had a great time starts, but has kind of fallen off now. He's 408 in Sierra, 3.75 FIP number, good average numbers. So we just talked about how good Snell was, 264 Sierra. Yamamoto, 2.78 Sierra. What? And then you got 1.30. Snell was the FIP number. Well, Yamamoto's 1.90. You're not going to get on base against these guys. And the Cincinnati Reds offense is 22nd. They're scoring 3.2 runs a game, 16% worse than an average offense, and they're not very good on the road against the Dodgers, who can, they just clean up at home. Look, there's no reason to go bet these Dodgers every single day against those numbers, unless you're going to bet minus the 1.5. And I don't advise doing that in the playoffs. I get it. The series price is minus. Where's the series price? Bingo. Oops, wrong one. The series price over here. The series price at DraftKings was 245. The series price at FanDuel was 270. ProfitX is 270. Look, I think this is 2 and out. I don't necessarily sit there and advise people to go buy minus 270s and stuff like that. But I'm just going to tell you, Cincinnati's not going to win this. They're not going to win one game. So it's a lock play to bet the Dodgers on this series. Bet it for $270 to win 100 and be done and move on with your life, and then really look at how they set things up against the Phillies or whoever they play next. So anyway, I know that's kind of a shitty thing to kind of handle it, but I don't think you want to sit there and do like every game minus the 200 and whatever they're going to be. It's going to be worse when Yamamoto pitches against Abbott. So the Dodgers, the Reds aren't going to score. I mean, they might score one run, if that. And that might be both games. They might lose 6-0 and 6-1, something like that. So anyway, that's what I got for you, Jeff. Hopefully that helps some. If there's questions or anybody wants me to break down or look at a different pitching matchup or this or that or anything else, I'll be glad to do it.
And I'm going to piggyback. I loved everything you did there. And I'll go back to the Red Sox series. Yankees opened up minus 190, guys. How I read the market, there's only one way that number could go, especially when people say, oh, shit, Crochet starting. Very, very, very surprised. Fried opened up minus 136. I thought that number would be a lot closer. Vegas is saying, hey, Red Sox, don't rush to the window. We'll open up another window. Come on down. Because, quote unquote, we know there's such value on Crochet here. And yet, look at Scooble. Minus 169 at DraftKings, 158 at the Circa. Good evening, Mr. Benson, Mr. Stevens as well. So my point here is, it's the best of three. Go back to the Red Sox, and you can say it's an even matchup. Add home field, add Fried, slight edge Yankees. In my eyes, game 2 is a huge edge to the Yankees with Rodon and Bello. Bello is leaking so much oil. And listen, I'm not a Nerfy or Yerfy guy, but I would tell everyone watching tonight, bet the Yerfy. Yes, on tomorrow's on Wednesday night's game, because if Bello will be whiplashing if he can't get through that first inning, and you'll know early if he walks someone or gets a guy on. Because I'll probably say this, and I think Cora might play this game. They might walk Judge every time. Yeah, I'm just going to put him on first. You ain't going to round the bases again. We'll give you first. We ain't giving you the homer. I wouldn't be surprised in a few spots they just walk him there. But getting back now to Scooble and Cleveland, again, great run. You talked about it last week. A lot of times in life you make that push that no one saw coming, and the world's off your back. You did it. You won the division. Now you're in the playoffs. And I'll just say this out loud. The one team, if I was the Guardians, I didn't want to see again was the Tigers. As you always say, hey, you looked great against us last time. You're not going to look that great the following. Scooble 164 on FanDuel, 65. I give a huge edge, not just because Scooble's on the mound, but the shit that these guys have had to listen to because they almost didn't make the playoffs. They blew the 15.5 game lead. Maybe the light bulb goes back on, guys, because you know what? There's egg on their face for not winning the division, but they're in the playoffs, unlike the Mets. Okay, I got Cy Scooble pitching tomorrow. So instead of betting Scooble minus 164, just take the Tigers in the series. You win game 1. Now you can play some games because you can take the Guardians in game 2 for a half a yard, and you're guaranteed a half yard either which way here. So again, take the Tigers in the series, get that over with. Listen, even if the Yankees lose game 1, they're going to win game 2 and Schlichter or whatever versus Harrison versus Early versus who's the other kid that they just brought up that now it's just coming out of the pen? The lefty flamethrower, the big heavy set kid. I'm forgetting his name. edge, Yankees. The only thing the Red Sox have the edge in the back end, I think, is in the eighth and ninth, if they can get to Whitlock and Chapman. And it's going to be a tough task, maybe not so much in game one, but a real tough task in game two and three to get to Whitlock and Chapman there. Cincy Dodgers again, minus 290. Again, I said if you wanted to play the series, fine. If your book has Dodgers sweep, do that. If you don't want to lay the 3-1 there, again, I would rather have you just take them to win the National League pennant, because you can come back with the Phillies and the Dodgers, because I think the winner of the Phillies Dodgers series will most likely go to Milwaukee, and then they're going to win the pennant there. San Diego, Chicago, I'm rooting for the Padres. I really am. I just think they're leaking too much oil. For them, they need their front end pitching to get them to the back end, because their back end is second to none. The problem is they got the Bulldog Pavetta going. It's a pick 'em. We know Boyd, Chicago, home. 308 start might help the Padres. I think this is a 3-game series. I really, really do. Like the Red Sox Yankees, it could be all hands on deck for both sides there. I think that's a 3-game series. I like the Dodgers in a sweep. I wouldn't be shocked if Detroit goes 2-Q against the Guardians. Maybe they'll get some life. The respect I have for J-Ram and that organization for what they did. I lived through 78. I had a 9-game lead September 1st against the Yankees. They came back and tied us, and we lost in a playoff game to Bucky Dent. Go Google that, all you young guns there. But yeah, great job, Scotty. Thoughts, closing thoughts, comments, concerns, excitement?
Well, I'm excited for baseball. I mean, obviously, I think some of the, gambling wise, you just got to think about how these things break out. Like I said, I think the Padres Cubs series is a day by day game. Whichever way you kind of feel about them. Otherwise, I think I can bet the series prices and all these other ones. And sit back, relax, have some fun. Maybe once you have it in an in pocket play, you can start thinking about other things to hedge or do this or do that or whatever. So I think it puts you in a different spot. The other part of it is you're sitting here and you're trying to figure it out a little bit. And I think, you get caught up sometimes in the rush of things as to how good teams are, how bad they are. And you forget that sometimes these matchups are a little bit closer than you might have thought they were going to be, even when you have really good pitchers. The one thing that surprised me was the totals in these games. I think the Detroit and Cleveland was 6 or something like that.
6 at Circa, yeah.
And then it's 7 on every other game. Look, these aren't the best pitchers in the world out here now. These aren't the greatest pitchers of the last decades running out here to make these starts. I mean, you've got Matthew Boyd, for example, out here pitching game 1 of this playoff series. That tells you a lot in my mind. So I sit there and I think to myself, that makes no sense. Now, granted, these teams still have to hit, but I think we really might see a little bit more scoring than I normally would think with these groups. We're not at the good bullpens yet. Like the good bullpens, like Philadelphia's bullpen. You know what I mean? Like some of these teams that can come in and just shut you down and say just be like, you're done. Those kind of bullpens. Well, we're not there yet. So we'll see how that kind of works out. Milwaukee's got a good bullpen. So I think these games, the way they play out, especially early like this, don't forget the managers of the team, they get nervous, and they get a guy on base. They're like, shit, we got to get the bullpen up. I mean, it might be the 3rd inning. Well, there's a guy on first base. Well, we need to get ready because he might get to second base, and I got to start bringing in a relief pitcher. Stuff like that happens in these games. So they starters don't go as deep as you might think they do. They're important, especially the big guy like Scooble. He's important. Crochet's important because they're going to throw a lot of innings. Fried's important. They're going to throw those bigger innings. Um, but at the same time, they're going to throw those bigger innings. Don't be surprised. Like, don't be surprised if they jerk some of these guys out of there a lot faster than you might think they do. It's just the way playoff baseball works. It's just a different dynamic. And I will say the series prices will definitely change after game one, no matter who wins what. So bet them the way you like them now, because you ain't going to get these prices next.
And that's where I was going to close, is back to the Yankees Red Sox. If you think, I said this one or two ways, you can bet the Yankees series before first pitch and sweat it out, put a quarter, some pizza and beer money on the Red Sox if you want in crochet. Or if you really like the Red Sox in game one but think the Yankees are going to win the series, don't bet the series yet. Red Sox win the game one. It will go to a pick 'em, maybe Yankees minus 110, even though 115, even though they're down a game. If you don't want to lay where are the Yankees right now? Yankees 185. If Crochet and the Red Sox win game one, guys, it'll probably go to a pick 'em. Sox might even be minus 105 or something. They have Yankees have a huge edge, in my opinion, in game two. And then home field does mean something in the playoffs. I think depending upon how game one and two and the bullpens go, the Sox have, again, Harrison. They have Early, and I keep forgetting the kid they just brought up, Scotty, 2-3 weeks ago. He started the second game, and then he was pitching out of the bullpen. Big lefty.
Hold on. Hold, please. You said he started a game? What,
He started as Tolley's the other guy. Yeah, so they could go something like Harrison, Early, Tolley if they wanted to. Again, holy shit, that would be three lefties, Scott. And I guarantee you they intentionally walk Judge every time. Now you go to first. We're all set there. Yeah, how about that one? Harrison to Early to Tolley, trying to get to the back end there. So, Giolito out for this series. Again, guys, he was out of gas, leaking oil. I think he has an opt-out for 17.5 or something, or the Red Sox then have an opt-out for 1.5. He will be going to free agency. I don't know what Trevor Story will do, and obviously we don't know what Alex Bregman will do. That will be the number one signing for the Sox. There is, you got to get Bregman done and then figure out from there which way you're going to go. Tomorrow, 9:15 a.m., myself and Scott will be back talking football. Recap the weekend, recap the two games on Monday night, and then get ourselves set up college and NFL on Tuesday. We'll be off on Wednesday, and then we'll be back Thursday and Friday. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Scottie Webb at Webby20 MLB, we wish everyone a blessed day. Enjoy the NFL. Baseball tomorrow, 108, 308, 608, 908. Have some fun. The playoffs are here, and stay tuned.